everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
My birthday's coming up.
Yeah, I know.
So if you want to get me something nice, you know what you can get me? My favorite thing. This is the thing that I want the most. For
silence?
No, it's actually for someone else to make a decision. I have such decision fatigue all the time that the nicest thing that someone else can do for me is to actually make a decision about something as small as it might be, like what's for dinner. Would be great.
Oh, that actually is not a small thing.
No, that's
that
a very, very
huge
hard thing. The hardest decisions we have to make at our house is what's for dinner.
That's like when you fall down and you bang your knee, and then you bang your knee on a multitude of times for the next 2 weeks by accident, and it's in the same spot, so it hurts worse. It's kind of like that. Dinner decisions.
That the whole time. Yeah, decision. I feel like I have to make a lot of decisions, and so when it at work, so when it comes to like home decisions, I am like I am.
You don't want to.
I am fatigued. I have decision fatigue.
Yeah. I would have to say I'm the exact same way. I don't like little decisions at all at home. As a matter of fact, it makes me so annoyed. Yeah.
So what is it about decisions that actually take so much energy, or why do we not like making them?
Well, I love making a lot of decisions. I love making a lot of decisions. I think I don't like making decisions that are mundane because I find those boring. I get bored easily.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like, even in the tech industry, Steve Jobs is famous for wearing the same thing every single day. There's sort of a bunch of like eccentrics, although when you think they might be seen as eccentrics, like, hey, I'm only going to wear the same thing. I have a closet full of the same black shirt and blue jeans.
Yeah.
But when you think about it in the context of like they're trying to optimize like their ability to make decisions, removing one as mundane as what am I going to wear today is kind of
a masterful
genius.
decision.
Yeah, really smart.
Yeah, it's a masterful decision. Yeah. Actually, isn't he the guy who, I forgot about this, but isn't he the guy who said you only make so many decisions in a day?
Yeah.
And so you should choose what those decisions are? Isn't there something like that?
That sounds pretty good.
No, for realsies. Like when they're trying to help people be more efficient or more effective and not get so worn out, there's some kind of world view
that you should reduce.
Or philosophy.
That you should reduce decision making. I totally get that. That it makes total sense.
I do too. Yep, I do too. And so they explained why like people later in the day or afternoon or whatever will be tired and feel very frustrated about having to make decisions because they've already made their decisions for the day.
So I read the stat that says that we make about 35,000 decisions a day.
What?
Yeah, like 2 a second.
That's not real.
Well,
do you think that's real?
Yeah, well, if you think about it, just walk through it. I read the stat and I was like, that seems way high. But even like, you're making all sorts of decisions right now and you're not super conscious of them. You're deciding what to say next.
Sure.
Our listener,
you're deciding to blink so your eyes don't dry out.
The blink stuff. That stuff is like more instinctual. But there's all sorts of, you're deciding if you need to readjust in your seat. You're deciding if you should be like looking at me or at you in your little camera view while we're recording this. You're deciding like all these things. And so I think there are way more decisions than we think.
Yeah. And our brain must put them in different categories of awareness.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's talk. So there's all sorts of small decisions. Like I like to think about like there's a million like very small, pretty much unconscious decisions, just like you pointed out.
Right.
There's some that come to the forefront of our mind like every day. Like what are we going to eat? What are we going to wear? You know,
right.
Things that we maybe have to do.
Those are the ones I can't stand.
All right. And then there's really big decisions, like life decisions. Am I going to move?
That's right.
Am I going to start a family? Am I going to switch jobs?
Yeah.
Right. So there's all sorts of a range of decision making.
Yeah. I never thought of this. This is very interesting. Once again, you've spent quite a bit more time thinking about this than I have. I feel like I owe you an apology right now. I'll have to think about that, make a decision.
This morning I decided to write 2 pages of notes about it. So, well, the other thing I think is really interesting about decisions is there's the size of a decision, and then there's the speed of a decision.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually where I went right away when I started thinking about decisions, is the speed in which people make decisions. That's a big
because
thing.
when we see people, when we interact with people, or talk with them about decisions they have to make, I find myself very easily assuming the speed in which I make decisions is the speed in which they will make a decision. And then I will get frustrated when they don't decide fast enough. But that's
actually,
not really fair, right? Like I
I
can't project my speed of decision making onto other people.
Right. So that's interesting that's what you just said, because what I do is I always assume I'll make a decision faster than anyone I know. That's just what I naturally assume.
So you think you are a fast decision maker?
I am a very fast decision maker, sometimes to my detriment.
How have you made it?
Okay.
Have you made a snap decision that you regret?
Yeah, I would say probably a number of them, but I make most decisions snap. So I would say most of the time it works out just fine, and I really am comfortable with the odds, right? Like I like making decisions really quickly. I don't like wandering around the woods. Is the phrase I always use.
Mulling.
I'm not gonna wander around the woods about this. Just do it.
Mull it over. I hear that a lot. Oh, I gotta mull this over. Well, what about? Okay, but like, there's all sorts of things we do. Like you're gonna make a snap decision, but a lot of times, what's the advice when someone's making decisions too fast? Oh, you should sleep on it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, and that is the common phrase, isn't it? You should sleep on it. Yeah, I've heard that many, many times in my life. Have you?
Oh yeah.
You should sleep on it.
Let's decide this tomorrow. That's what I hear from my team at work. I just want to decide now. They're like, "Let's decide tomorrow." Like, why would we do that? I already decided.
That's John. Yeah. I know that's John on your team. The best way to disagree and be deferential all at the same time and be right at the same time. That's John.
So,
well, I you know what I kind of wonder, but actually this is maybe flying in the face of that, but I was wondering if personality style, the construct patience with a person, is naturally aligned with how quickly you make decisions.
That's a good question.
And not only how quickly you make decisions, but how comfortable you are in the risk of the decision not being right.
Oh, right. Like, so there's a couple of things about a decision itself.
Yeah.
Like one, a lot of times there's like fear. There's like fear of the unknown. Like you're going to decide. It's a fork in the road. It feels like you're really committing to like this or that. You want to make a right decision. Everyone wants to make a correct decision. So you've got this pressure. So, yeah.
You know, I would say, I mean, even just sitting here reflecting on all these kinds of questions that you're suggesting and talking through, I I am comfortable making fast decisions, even when they're big and most people think that I might be crazy. I use my gut. I use my gut to make these decisions all the time. If I get hung up, it's usually on something really small. Like, honestly, like, what am I going to wear to this conference? Like, that drives me crazy. What am I going to, if I'm going to pack to travel, it is ridiculous how long it takes me. It's ridiculous. You would actually die laughing if you knew. It takes me hours to pack for like a week or 2 weeks being gone. And yet, if I'm going to buy a new car or, I mean, just something major, planning a big vacation and just buy,
So
absolutely.
I wonder why that is. Like, it's like
I don't know.
You know, as a low patience person, construct, right?
Almost to the point of no. I think on the construct scale of 0 to 10, mine is like a 0 or a 1 on patience.
So it's funny that something as easy as packing would throw you off.
I know.
I wonder if it's like
silly.
Like again, it's like an anxiety thing. Like you don't want to get stuck with not having the right clothing.
Oh, well, I had a bad experience once, so I wonder if that's why.
Past trauma.
I just had a flashback.
Past packing trauma.
Yeah. I was speaking in front of 5,000 people. I had the outfit I was going to wear. I got to the hotel, unpacked it, and the blouse that I was going to wear had a huge mark in the front that I didn't see when I had packed. And it was 6 o'clock on a Saturday night or something like that. Or no, on a Sunday. It was 6 o'clock on a Sunday night, and I had to speak in the first thing in the morning. And I absolutely panicked. I had to, anyway.
So now you overpack.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So, no, actually I don't. No, I don't still. But maybe that's why, because I refuse to overpack. I will never check a bag. It doesn't matter how long I'm gone or where I'm going. And so So that maybe that has something to do with your decision making is past
experience.
Past repercussions of a bad decision. Maybe not past experiences of good decisions, because, why wouldn't you want to replicate that 100 million times?
I would say that's probably pretty solid human nature, is that we don't really reflect on the good decisions we make, but we really get stuck and ruminate on the quote bad decisions. But to me, decisions are just like a part of the journey, good or bad.
Yeah.
So
right, I agree.
You also said something interesting, like you use your gut.
I always use my gut, almost exclusively. And then I use my brain to just do a quick scan of, wait, what are the facts that I know about this?
Like,
is this still good? Okay,
did that make sense? Or does it make sense?
Does that make sense? Why shouldn't I do this? Is a question that I might ask myself a lot. Why wouldn't this be a good idea? I have one client. I just love him. I don't get to work with him very often, but I get funny texts from him that say things like, "Hey Mel, can you quick call me sometime this morning? I want you to tell me why I shouldn't do something." It's like, I love that. Can you call me quick? And his patience is like a quadruple zero, negative number.
So he's just going to jump right in.
Yeah, he's going. Well, I have a question. What?
I was just gonna say, like, the whole idea of like gut brain and using your gut for a decision, I think is super important. I do that same thing all the time. I generally just make gut decisions. And one of the reasons for in business why I have to do that a lot is because we are constantly making decisions on partial information. Like, we don't have all the information. So, like, at a certain sort of level in organizations and in business, your job is to basically guess. I mean, it's all the experience and blah, blah, blah. But no, it's it's just gut guesses on which direction we need to go or what decisions. Because you get to a point where you will never have complete information. So you have to get really comfortable making decisions with partial information. And some people,
and you also have
people just get completely paralyzed by that. They say, "Well, we can't decide. We don't know everything." And we don't. We gotta go. We gotta decide anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to be okay failing.
Yep.
That's the other thing. You have to be okay failing, because making a decision quickly, you are going to make mistakes.
Yeah, like you said, it's a percentage game. Some of them work really great. Some of them don't. And it's okay.
Right. I have this mentor that said, fail fast, but fail forward. And I love that. It's like, yeah, make the decision quickly. And if it's not the right decision, that's okay. Learn from it and keep going. But don't lose momentum. Don't stop making decisions. Don't replicate the errors by making the same decision over and over if it's not correct.
The other decision you can make is to not decide.
Well, is that not deciding? See,
I mean,
I don't think that's true.
There's some times where you might look and say, hey, we've got a couple options here, and what we're going to do is nothing.
Yeah, but I always say that's making a decision.
So that's a decision. Doing nothing is a decision.
Yeah. Not deciding is making a decision.
Procrastination, I guess.
Yeah, because ultimately something will happen, right? If you're involved in the outcome of something, either you make a decision or you don't, but your impact in that is going to happen. Yep. So if you are sitting on something, it's going to also make something happen.
I would say the times where I've had the most regret around my actions has been due to indecision. If I let something go, I don't decide, I don't take care of it, I don't figure out what I want to do, I just don't do anything. Those are the times when I've been left with like regret about not deciding earlier.
Are there areas where you will try to change the speed of your decision making on purpose? Have you ever been like, because I was just reflecting on this, if this idea of our natural personality will sort of drive how quickly we make decisions, if that's true or not, if that's a hypothesis that's true, let's just say it is, then what if you choose or you worry that that's not a good speed for you? Like, for example, if you go too slow, if you are a very slow decision maker, what happens if you decide, that's it, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make this decision fast, come hell or high water, I'm making this decision. Or the reverse of that. Like, I've seen people that are very fast decision makers suddenly not having something work out or deciding that that's not best. And then all of a sudden trying to say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to just really take my time on this. And it's so unnatural for the person to do that. Have you seen that? Because I have, and I've experienced
it. Like, so if you're low patience, I'm high patience, and I know that I sometimes will not decide for quite a while. Like, I can let a decision just hang out there for quite a while, and just be like, oh yeah, I will make that decision someday. I just let it sit there, right? And that would drive you crazy.
Yes. Well, and I would say too, for people that are listening to our language that we're using, saying high patience and low patience, I would want to make a distinction here for the discussion is like, as a personality expert, high patience doesn't mean you move slow. High patience means that you move at your pace, not someone else's. So if you think it's going to be done yesterday, it'll get done yesterday. If you don't want to make the decision right now, you're not going to, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says or does. So that's when you look at pace. So because otherwise you could say that doesn't make sense. If someone's high patience and someone's low patience, then wouldn't that mean they make decisions slow or fast respectively? But it actually doesn't. It has to do with the person's decision making about how they choose to move through their day. It's kind of interesting, right? When you think about it like that. Yeah.
So I know that I have like learned to, I can tell when there's a decision that I'm just going to push, and then I know that about myself, and I decide faster. I just decide like, like here's one that I would tend to not decide on for a while. Yeah. So I'm just going to make sure I decide by the end of the day. I just put like a deadline on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's actually a strategy for high patience individuals, is to create a artificial deadline, or a deadline that they perceive as got to be done.
Or I just think like, is this a big enough decision that I actually need to decide, that I need to just like mull it over or think about it And if the answer is no, I just decide immediately. So I've been training myself to this like bias to action.
Yeah. That's super interesting.
Around a lot of decisions, because I've learned from the past, if I push decisions too far out, then I've experienced like negative results from that. So I just decide, or have like trained myself around lots of decisions to just move them right to now.
Right to now. You know what else? At the beginning of our conversation, we were just talking about like, if we move at a certain pace that we expect other people to. What's your reaction to people? Do you have a natural negative response to people that make decisions opposite of the way you do in terms of speed?
That's a good question.
Because I think
That's
I
a
do.
Good question.
I think I do. Like, not on purpose, but I think I'm kind of judgy about it now that I'm thinking this through a little bit. It drives me crazy when people don't make decisions just for the sake of not making them in the moment. Yeah, which is a lot of my family. Like, here's my version. Hey, I'm going to buy a car tomorrow. And this is literally how I purchased probably 3 or 4 cars. I'm going to buy a car. I think I'm just going to I kind of have a feeling about this one. I like this one. It's got pretty good. I think I'm just going to buy this car.
Let me guess what Mitch's approach on that is going to be. It's going to be like, okay, good. Let's start researching cars. What kind of car do you want? Let's make a list of what you want.
Yeah.
Right?
Honestly, and just to not make the decision just because it's too soon, theoretically. That drives me crazy.
Well,
it drives me crazy.
That's analysis paralysis. That's the idea that like we think we're going to make a really informed decision, and we just then we just keep collecting data. But then this just becomes so overwhelming that we decide to not do anything.
Yeah.
Or we sit in research mode way, way too long.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting about this is that I think you're being very flexible in this conversation. I think you're really able to, I do. I think you're really able to go back and forth and like feel the feelings of being in a slow decision versus objectively, and feel the feelings of being in a fast decision objectively. I feel like you're doing a really good job of balancing that in this conversation. And I actually think that that's kind of true, because I think you do both of those things. I, on the other hand, I'm just noticing I'm not objective about being too slow making decisions. That drives me crazy. I feel very judgy if somebody does that. And I just almost... And it's not right. I don't think it's right for me to feel like this, but I do. I almost just think, are you kidding me? Like, let's just, okay, you go ahead and keep thinking about it. I'm going to go do that thing.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back and you let me know if you've made a decision. Like, right? Isn't that awful? But I wonder if we naturally do have biases about people that make decisions opposite in terms of speed.
I think so too. I think for sure. I bet as we think about this more, it happens constantly.
You know what else is kind of funny?
What?
Well, I think it's funny because I'm on the I'm giving air quotes, the right side of the scale. Okay, so lower patience individuals don't mind conflict or confrontation. It's actually part of that construct, which is an interesting thing. Okay, people that have high patience have a natural predisposition to avoid conflict and confrontation. So now put yourself in a decision-making room, right? When you have to make a decision and you've got the high speeders like trying to just power through all these choices, and the ones who want to think it through and make decisions in a more logical, systematic, methodical approach are losing their mind but saying nothing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that plays out at work every day.
I know. I know.
I bet it plays out at home every day, but this is again one of those things that we assume everyone else, and even though maybe we've been with our spouses forever, like, I mean, we probably know our partners like decision speeds and either accept them or get frustrated by them.
Right.
Probably the
exactly.
latter. But diving into really thinking about what drives different people to make decisions at different speeds is really helpful.
Yeah, I know it really is, because sometimes people with a high sense of urgency, they just like to shake things up just to shake things up.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it isn't necessarily productive or helpful or the right decisions. It's just, it feels good to be moving.
Yeah. A couple other things just about decisions that I like to keep in mind is, especially at work, when we're making decisions at work, some people will take it so seriously, and I appreciate they want to take it seriously, but I'm like, you guys, it's not life or death. This is just software. If we like mess it up, we'll just fix it. We'll just push another like change to the code, and not a big deal. Like, so understanding like maybe the size and the impact of a decision, because there's some decisions that feel really important that frankly aren't really very important. And some that don't actually feel very important that can put you on a whole different life track.
Oh, I totally agree with you.
And I don't think we're very good at understanding which are the really big decisions and which aren't.
Yeah, in the moment. And sometimes taking your time to just allow a feeling to sink in for just a minute, and taking that extra time is really, really beneficial.
And
so even though I've got my big sword out right now and my big helmet about moving fast all the time.
I like what you said about time. Like
great.
I have to use like a deadline to make a decision sometimes. Yeah. You need to use a like opposite of a deadline, a decide tomorrow technique. So just knowing that about yourself. The other thing is options. Most decisions have options. A lot of decisions we think are like yes, no, or left or right, or a fork in the road kind of decision.
Exactly.
So many decisions have like
3
way more options. And if we stop and really start thinking through some of those options, is important. The other thing I think is kind of interesting around decisions is how many times did you tell your kids, especially as they were like young adults, to
don't be so impulsive.
Think through. Why don't you think through that decision a little bit more, right? Like my late teen kids don't seem to think through any decision past like the immediate gratification thing they're trying to do.
Right, exactly.
But in what?
Oh, so you're saying age and maturity also has something to do with decision making?
Totally, because sometimes I look at the way they impulsively make decisions and think like, oh yeah, that's actually a great trait sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes it's really not a great trait.
Scary.
It's a scary trait.
Yeah.
So
oftentimes you just think, oh dear God, most teenagers make it through this period. I'm going to just hold on.
Like there's a fine line. Like reflecting back on like my early career, I mean, we started the company when I was 19 years old. And we were so dumb about so many things. We made so many ridiculous decisions.
Oh, same.
That naivete around that stuff and that just like deciding to just jump in and not really thinking through everything. If we would have thought it through, it'd been like, ooh, yeah, this is way too scary. We should not do this. But we don't. So we just run in.
Yeah.
And that actually created a really positive result.
Yeah. I made a lot of really poor partnership decisions when I was younger. And I'm a very giving, I'm the give, keep going, make everybody happy personality. And I had a lot of relationships early on that I didn't make good decisions about because I was just so quick to focus on something other than what the whole picture was, So I think you're right. I think that has a lot to do with it.
All right, we got to wrap it up. But I did make this whole entire giant list of decision making.
Oh my
ideas.
gosh! Okay, everybody's holding up a notebook and it's got like at least 20 lines.
I was like, all
wow.
these things are decisions. So we might have to do a part 2.
Oh, that's
Decide
great.
to do a
and
part 2.
I love how I came into this and I was like, oh yay, we're talking about decisions. What do I want to talk about? Record. Okay, and we're in.
Cool. Well,
so funny.
Step 1, I think, is just reflect on your own decision-making style. Like, how do you make decisions? And then, is it serving you? And are there certain scenarios where you would like to take more time to decide or take less time to decide? And just be a little bit more intentional around those kinds of decisions.
And it's not a character flaw to switch it up. It's not a character flaw to go slower. It's not a character flaw to speed things up a little. And I think the other step that would be really interesting is to think about the people that are closest to you and what their decision making is like, and see if that has something to do with the discord or accord in your relationship, and can you make improvements on the relationship, even just having an awareness of that. Because a lot of times that speed will make it seem like it's the actual discussion that you're having when it won't have anything to do with the real discussion. It's simply just the speed that you're having.
Yep. It's like one person's record is on a different speed than the other person's, and it sounds funny.
Exactly.
So just having this conversation with your partner, your friends, your people at work would be a great step. Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.